Inside the pages of Joel Rosenberg's latest book is this chilling novel a preview of America's future. Plus, hear how this dad beat his addiction while on the way to get drunk.
I just heard Michael stop, to the point where I looked around and I was like, is this really God?
All on today's 700 Club Interactive. Well, good morning and welcome to the show. India has made remarkable strides at reducing poverty, yet 22% of the entire population, that translates to 270 million people, well, they still live below the poverty line.
Compassion International has been caring for India's poorest children for over 48 years, but it's going to close its doors in India this week. The ministry's worked every angle to try and stay open in India since India's Minister of Home Affairs put it on a list of organizations needing prior approval before transferring funds into the country. The government then refused to grant that approval. The closing will leave more than 145,000 Indian children without aid and will shut down close to 600 Indian staff development centers. The move comes as Christians in India face growing hostility and violence from Hindu extremists. India has moved to number 15 on the list of countries where it's hardest to be a Christian. That's up from number 31 in just 2013. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Well, in other news, some new shows reveal how Israel impacts the course of world history. TBN, Trinity Broadcasting Network, partnered with Christians in Defense of Israel and Liberty Counsel in the premiere of an exclusive 13-part original series, Why Israel Matters. The show is designed to show the crucial importance of the Jewish state of Israel to not only Christians, but to the entire world. And here at CBN, we also have our next docudrama in our hands, The Battle for Jerusalem, and that's going to be coming out in the end of May, the beginning of June, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Six-Day War. The film shows the story of Israel's 55th Paratrooper Brigade and their role in unifying Jerusalem, thus fulfilling the words of prophecy, and these are the words of Jesus, that until the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled, that Jerusalem will be no longer trodden under the foot of the Gentiles. So we're going to have a great celebration and remember the heroes of the 55th Paratrooper Brigade and their battle for Jerusalem.
Yeah, I know that'll be inspiring. Well, here's a story for you. An Oklahoma wedding cake company called Lace Cakes came up with an idea to give one lucky bride and groom a totally free wedding cake by asking engaged couples to submit their proposal stories. The story of how Matt Dyson proposed to his bride, Tiffany Short, went viral. He used a Bible to pull off one of the most inspiring proposals Facebook has seen. Matt pulled a wrapped box out from behind his back, and when Tiffany unwrapped it, it was a Bible. On the Bible, he had printed her first name and his last name. He insisted Tiffany open the Bible to a page he had bookmarked, and this passage in Mark was highlighted. But from the beginning of the creation, God made them male and female. For this reason, the man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So then they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let not man separate. Well, Matt had tied the engagement ring to the bookmark and told Tiffany, told her she's the answer to his prayers, asked if she would marry him. Of course, she said yes. And as you might have guessed, Tiffany and Matt won the competition. Yeah, woo. And we'll be getting a free wedding cake. Hallelujah. Those moments are always kind of breath-holding. Yeah.
Get your last name changed on your Bible. All right. Well, in other trending news, actress Jamie Lynn Spears says she is grateful for a miracle. The 25-year-old former Nickelodeon star shared an Instagram picture of her 8-year-old daughter, Maddie, looking healthy and happy after recently suffering a serious ATV accident. Jamie Lynn thanked all her fans for their prayers and went on to say, "I'm not one to preach, but we were shown God's grace, and we still feel undeserving of his mercy." I'll never stop thanking each of you for your prayers because we recognize the miracle it created, and we are beyond blessed, and we will never forget y'all and God's unbelievable mercy. And then the hashtag, God is good. Well, her daughter, Maddie, was hospitalized after she got into an ATV accident. She was partially submerged in a pond on the family property for over 2 minutes, but still, she has made a full recovery and is obviously smiling and quite happy. Yeah.
Could have turned out differently.
Yes,
Praise the Lord for that. Well, we want you to know about Mohammed Bazik and his late wife, Dawn. They made a decision years ago to intentionally foster terminally ill children. The two started helping kids in the late 1980s, and they've continued even after their own son, Adam, was born in 1997 with brittle bone disease and dwarfism. And then Dawn died in 2014, leaving Bazik to continue this work alone. He's now a single foster dad who makes sick kids' lives as good as they can be, and that's not an easy task. Mohammed has watched at least 10 of these children die. He's currently caring for a 6-year-old girl who suffers from a rare brain defect. She's deaf, blind, she's paralyzed, and spends 22 hours a day on a feeding tube. Mohammed says he simply wants children to know they are not alone. A GoFundMe page has been set up to help support Bazik, and over $325,000 has been raised over the past month. Mohammed has been a foster parent for terminally ill children now for over 20 years. That is a commitment.
Yeah, that is
wow.
a big commitment. And go Mohammed. That is a wonderful thing to do. Well, coming up, the must-read thriller about America being blind to a terror attack. It's Joel Rosenberg's latest page-turner, Without Warning, and the author himself will join us live right after this. Stay with us. Well, what if ISIS was able to pull off the unthinkable, an attack on the United States Capitol? Well, that's the premise behind Joel Rosenberg's latest thriller. Take a look.
What if the unthinkable happened? Terrorist attacks inside the American homeland by the Islamic State. From New York Times best-selling novelist Joel C. Rosenberg comes his most chilling political thriller yet, Without Warning. Without Warning is one of the must-read thrillers of 2017. One reviewer writes, the jaw-dropping ending alone is worth the price of admission. Without Warning, available now from joelrosenberg.com.
Joel's with us here, and welcome back. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Gordon. Great to be with you.
Well, your books tend to mirror the headlines that are about to come, and let's just start off with a current headline, the rise of anti-Semitism right here in the United States, which I thought was unthinkable, but now is not just thinkable, it's actually happening. What do you think is behind that?
Well, I don't think, let's start with what we don't think. I don't think that this is related to President Trump. I mean, people are trying to tag him as having inspired this. Look, his daughter converted to Judaism.
Yeah,
Jared Kushner is an Orthodox Jew. He loves this guy and is putting him in charge of Middle East peace negotiations.
Yeah, his daughter is an Orthodox Jew. We've got to remember that.
Exactly.
Sabbath observing Orthodox.
Absolutely. This is President Trump has been, a friend of Prime Minister Netanyahu. David Friedman, who's I think going to be the new ambassador to Israel, is an Orthodox Jew and a close friend of the president. So it's not that. But I do think that dark forces, anti-Semites, sense a moment. I don't think it's related to the president. I think it's a prophetic moment. I think we're going to see a rise in anti-Semitism. We beat it back. But we have to remember, at some point, 5 million American Jews are heading to Israel. Like Ezekiel 38:39 says, every Jew is going to return to the land of Israel. We just did ourselves. We didn't do it because of anti-Semitism. But most American Jews, they're thinking, why would I move to Israel? I love Israel, but, we're not fleeing from something. So I think the Bible doesn't say exactly how it happened, but I suspect we are going to be in for a hard road. And it's important for Christians to stand in solidarity with Jews, but also Muslims who are being attacked unfairly. I think we're seeing some darkness start to emerge in this country.
That's one of the themes you're bringing out, that as Americans, we need to recognize that it's the 10% minority within Islam that is driving the jihad, and they're actually at war with their own Muslim communities.
That's right. That's right. And we're going to be releasing some fact sheets over the next few days on my website that look at the data. The vast majority of Muslims, about 90%, according to the polling data, have no support for terrorism against civilians. But there is a 7 to 10% minority that may not all be involved in terrorism, but they do support the Islamic State and its violence. They do support suicide bombings. So that is dangerous because it's true, and the president should say, yes, we face radical Islamic terrorism. He's the first president ever to say that. President Bush didn't. President Obama didn't. But in saying that, that's shorthand. He has the opportunity and the responsibility to define it and to say 90% of the Muslim world we are not at war with. 10% does support this, 7 to 10, and we need to work with our Muslim allies against this, including our American Muslim friends who are not our enemy. And as Christians, we have to be super careful with our language, to love our neighbors and to recognize that this is a problem, but it's a problem that Muslims are worried about also, and we need to join forces.
And that's the reason Bush and Obama didn't want, I think Obama was real singular, didn't want to tag it radical Islam.
Yes, and so that motive, I think, is right. We don't want to accidentally, inadvertently make it seem like all Muslims are our threat.
Well, let me play the other side.
Okay.
And the other side is the Palestinian Authority actually rewards the families of suicide bombers financially.
It's horrible, and it needs to stop.
And this is not new and not just isolated to them.
Right.
Before the invasion of Iraq, Saddam Hussein supported the families.
$25,000 bonuses if you
we're gonna
have a suicide bomber in your family.
If you do
it's
this.
Horrible.
And, I still have the words of Osama bin Laden. I mean, that first interview after the attack where a journalist goes to him in a cave, and his first question is, what are the mullahs saying in Mecca and Medina? And he was given the assurance that they considered a righteous act. Given that, isn't there a fundamental problem with Islam?
Well, you can get into the theology, and you have people like the King of Jordan and the President of Egypt will say to you, as Muslims, this is a misreading of the text. Others say, no, that's exactly what the text says, and we should do it. I'm going to let the Muslims argue amongst themselves about the theology. As a practical policy matter, you ally yourself with the vast majority against the violent minority, and you work together. That's how we're going to win it long term. But it's a serious problem because it's true to say that the vast majority don't believe this, but 10% of 1.6 billion people is 160 million people. That's half the population of the United States. If they decide to create their own country, let's call it the Islamic Republic of Radicalistan, this would be the 9th largest country on the planet, larger than Russia. So to say that the vast majority aren't supportive of violence is true and fair, but the magnitude of the threat against us cannot be underestimated, and that's what both the novel is about, and I think that's what the president and his team, which I think is very impressive team, that's what they're saying, but they need to use the podium, the bully pulpit, to begin to explain to the American people. Those of us who know this issue, we think, well, the country already gets this. But no president has ever talked about it, so it's time. And that's part of my message on Capitol Hill last week. I met with people in the administration several weeks ago, and that's what I'm going to continue to encourage them. Don't assume that the country has thought this all through, because no president ever talked about it.
And don't assume the country is even educated on what the basic tenets of Islam are.
That's right.
We should be at this point in time, but I think sadly we're not.
That's right.
And so we don't even know how to engage the debate. My point is, if we're not engaging the debate, and I think this war on terror, you're not going to win it with bullets. You have to win it with ideas.
That's right. And I would say, therefore, there's two tracks. There's the government side. Romans 13 speaks of, the government doesn't wield the sword for nothing. We have a national security element. That's the role and responsibility of the government to keep us safe. The church's job is to go take the gospel and convert Muslims, if the Lord is gracious. That's how you're going to change, ultimately, long-term, radicals to being people who are peace-loving. It's not going to come because the State Department cooks up some new strategy. They should have some strategy, but let's be honest, the church has the answer. And we need to work on separate tracks. We don't want the government to try to convert people, but the church can't say, well, it's the government's job to deal with radical Islam. Our job is to what? Is to go love them and reach them with the gospel.
And you're living that out. I still don't understand how a Messianic believer, a resident of Israel, gets to meet with the King of Jordan.
Divine intervention. I can't explain it.
one?
The king should have banned me from his country reading novels where ISIS is trying to kill him and destroy the kingdom of Jordan. But he read it. He seemed to be intrigued with it enough to say, to invite my wife and I to come for 5 days and to meet with him and to have lunch with him. I had a 2.5-hour dinner in his private palace the night before I left. He sent us on his own helicopter to go meet with generals that are keeping Jordan safe from Daesh, from the Islamic State. It's the most amazing week of my life, and it's hard to describe, but it tells me that when a Jewish evangelical Zionist U.S.-Israeli citizen gets to go meet with a descendant of Muhammad, God is up to something interesting, which shows that we don't have to agree on everything, but we can show love and respect to our neighbors. It was Jesus as a Jew in Israel who said, love your neighbors, and then went to Jordan, right? And what did he do? He didn't try to work on the Roman government in Jordan. When he crossed the Jordan, he liberated people from demon possession. He preached the gospel, and he sent that man up in the northern part of Jordan who begged him, let me come with you to Israel and be part of your team. No, you go back and tell your family and your villages about me. That's the hope, and only the church can do it. We don't want government to be involved in that, and we need to love our neighbors and our enemies by respecting them, working together on policy, but then being bold and loving, compassionate about the gospel. And we're trying to do that with our own ministry, the Joshua Fund.
And you're doing a good job.
We're trying.
You have a new page turner, Without Warning. It's available nationwide, wherever books are sold. And Joel, thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Gordon.
I think it's important. I think it's prophetic what you're doing.
Thank you. God bless you.
Well, Terry, over to you.
Well, still to come, a teenager with a minimum wage job, a baby on the way, and a growing need for a drink.
I got weary. I wanted to take the pressure off. The only way of escape that I had was my addiction. Alcohol controlled my life.
How he beat his addiction next when we come back. Resisting arrest, eluding the police, assaulting an off-duty officer, Michael McLemore developed quite the rap sheet while a teenager. His life was a total mess. But that all changed when Michael heard a voice while he was on his way to the liquor store.
Michael McLemore thought he was raised in a loving home. That all changed when he was 15 years old and his parents divorced.
I was really angry with my mother. She had been unfaithful, and it hurt. It tore our family apart. I went to live with my brother. All we thought about was, going out and just having fun. I didn't want to be with my mother because I was so angry with her. And I didn't want to be with my dad because, he made me go to church.
And Michael wanted no part of anything that had to do with God.
God meant to me an angry being in the sky that was ready to cast down a lightning bolt at you at any opportunity that he could when you messed up.
But having pushed away God and his parents, Michael was left empty and without direction.
There was no kind of responsibility. It was just living a party lifestyle. I was dead on the inside, and I wanted to find something that would bring satisfaction to my life.
While in high school, Michael got a girl pregnant, so he dropped out of school and found a minimum wage job. Now the 16-year-old kid had adult responsibilities weighing him down.
I have a family that I'm trying to provide for, and I still had no direction. I had panic attacks constantly. and it caused anxiety, and it led to depression.
Then, his girlfriend left him and took their son. To cope, he turned to alcohol.
I got weary. I wanted to take the pressure off. And that's at the age of 19, I began to fall in love with this addiction of alcohol. It was around 2008 that I had gotten my first DUI. They did the field sobriety test, and that night they took me to jail. I knew my life was going to decline in that very moment. The only way of escape that I had was my addiction. Alcohol controlled my life.
A short time later, he met Mike Rollins at work.
He stands up in the middle of a safety meeting, and I mean, this is a construction site. You've got guys that all they talked about was sex, all they talked about was drinking and getting high. I mean, that was the workforce. He says, "Please respect me and don't take the Lord's name in vain in front of me." And when he said that, I respected him.
That respect quickly developed into a friendship, and they often talked during their work breaks.
I wanted to be like him. He was telling me about the things that took place in his life and how he had turned to God and how he no longer was addicted to these pain pills and how he was fighting addiction. And it was very compelling, but at the same time, I would go home to just nothingness. I would go home to depression. Even though Mike was giving me hope and speaking life to me and telling me about how his life was coming together, my life was still falling apart.
His friend gave him a Bible, but Michael threw it on his bed, afraid to find out what God would think of him.
Still in my mind, God was still this angry God in the sky that, you know, he was ready to condemn you. I would come home from work and I would see that Bible on my bed and I wouldn't go near it. I wouldn't sleep in my bed. I wouldn't go in my bedroom. I just stayed away from that room. I was afraid of God.
A few days later, Michael came home from work ready for a drink, but he was out of alcohol. He started to leave to go buy some when a voice stopped him.
I just heard Michael stop, to the point where I looked around and I was like, is this really God? I just felt it again. I felt Michael stop. And there was such a presence of love. I can't explain it. And I remember asking God, what do you want me to do? I'm crying and I'm asking God just to help me. And he's saying, read, just read my word. I'll speak to you.
Michael got the Bible off his bed and started reading the New Testament. He discovered a loving God that he could know through Jesus.
And Jesus says, many in that day will say to me, Lord, did we not do many wonderful works in your name? And he said, and I will declare to them, I never knew you. And man, when I read those words, I never knew you. That's why he had to tell me. He had to let me know. He never knew me. He never had a relationship with me. Grabbed that Bible and I just started hugging it and holding it, crying out to God and saying, God, if you give me a chance, I'll give you every bit of my life. I surrender. Just forgive me of my sins. Forgive me of everything that I've ever done. I give you my life. And I remember I cried until about 2 o'clock in the morning. I cried myself to sleep. And I had such an encounter with God. He loved me. And he accepted me.
Michael started reading his Bible every day and going to church. He slowly grew in his relationship with God.
I still had the temptation of alcoholism. I still had court issues, and I didn't care about the issues because this relationship with God superseded every issue that I had. I knew as long as I had Jesus, I was okay.
Michael did a small amount of jail time and got help for his addiction. Today, he's a pastor and wants everyone to experience the joy that comes when they put their trust in Jesus.
God today is still performing miracles. I was stuck in addiction, and if God can save me, he can save anyone. Know that he will get you through because there's no other way. And he'll get you exactly where you need to be in your life so that people will see his power through you.
Boy, left to our own devices, we're a mess, aren't we? I mean, every single one of us. But you can see on Michael's face in that story how the truth of the fact that God loved him, that God accepted him right where he was, understanding all of the past mistakes and understanding all of the failures, and yet seeing his need. I love that song that we've sung for years. He looked beyond my fault and saw my need. And that is what God does for each and every one of us. Let God do that for you today. Don't let head knowledge about him to keep you from having that personal, intimate relationship that Michael's talking about that set him free. It's available to anyone who calls upon the name of the Lord. Let today be the day that you do that. Maybe there's something specific in your life that you need prayer about. Maybe you'd like to pray with someone about an addiction that you're dealing with. Our line is toll-free. It's open all the time. It's 1-800-700-7000. Just call, and you don't even have to give your name if you don't want to. Just say, I need to know Jesus. Will you pray with me today? The person on the other end of the line has already prayed that prayer, and you would make their day. So call now. Gordon?
For those of you that want that prayer, here's a verse for you. It's from Romans chapter 10. For it is by believing in your heart that you are made right with God, and it is by openly declaring your faith that you are saved. Do that today, and God bless you.